At the heart of human thought lies a truth as simple as it is powerful, the golden law, a principle hidden in plain sight, inviting us to act, to feel, and to live as if everything in our lives were already in perfect order. Imagine a force so profound that, once assumed, it transforms the invisible into visible, the impossible into inevitable. This text, inspired by the timeless teachings of Joseph Murphy, is an invitation to walk with the certainty that the entire universe is conspiring in your favor. Here, you will uncover the secret of those who achieve their dreams, to behave as if they were already a reality. Each word will be a key unlocking your mind, each idea a flame igniting your creative faith, and each moment a revelation reminding you of your true destiny, to prosper, to grow, to triumph. For when you act as if everything goes well for you, the world itself aligns with that conviction. Prepare yourself. You are about to step onto the golden path where imagination becomes power and faith becomes certainty. The golden law lives within you, and today it begins to manifest. The entire life of the human being is, in essence, the tangible reflection of what he holds in the deepest part of his consciousness. If you observe your environment, your relationships, your health, your finances, you will see that everything obeys not mysterious forces beyond your control, but the quality of your dominant thoughts and the conviction that animates your inner being. Nothing happens by chance or accident. Everything is the exact and mathematical expression of the mental seeds that, consciously or unconsciously, you have sown over the years in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. There is no exception to this law. What you hold as truth, what you repeat as certainty, what you consistently imagine and feel, inevitably translates sooner or later into visible facts, into circumstances, into results that sometimes seem surprising, but are nothing more than the logical harvest of an inner sowing sustained with perseverance. Most people go through life like leaves carried by the wind, believing that the causes of their destiny lie in external factors, the economy, the family, luck, personal history. However, this work will reveal to you in a clear and rational way that you are the only one responsible for your reality, because your mind is the creative and directing source of everything you experience. It does not matter what your past has been, nor how difficult the circumstances you face today may be. From this moment on, you can take the helm of your life and direct your thoughts, your words, and your actions in such a way that success, prosperity, peace, and well-being become your new companions. This book, which arrives in your hands at the perfect moment of your evolution, has been designed not only to instruct you, but to transform you. Each chapter offers not simple theories, but universal laws, practical formulas, proven exercises, and true stories that demonstrate the validity of mental principles. Throughout these pages, you will learn to act as if everything were already working out for you, not through illusion, but through the understanding of a higher truth. The mind can and must be trained to create in the invisible what you wish to see manifested in the visible. You will discover that there is no obstacle, no fear, no condition that cannot be transformed from within. Receive this knowledge then with openness, discipline, and the firm purpose of putting it into practice. For your destiny is defined here and now in the quality and direction of your dominant thoughts. Act as if everything were already working out for you. Based on the teachings of Joseph Murphy. We have noticed that more than 80% of those who visit our channel are not subscribed. You can support this project by pressing the subscribe button and giving a like to the video. Thank you for inspiring us to continue creating more and better content for you. Are you ready to transform your life? Chapter 1. Your mind, the origin of all reality. The principle you are about to receive here is not a mere invitation to think positively, nor a well-intentioned piece of advice to lift your spirits in the face of adversity, but the revelation of an invisible, constant, and absolute law that operates in your life at every moment, whether you are aware of it or not. It is no exaggeration to affirm that everything you experience in your external world, every event, every encounter, every success and every failure, every surprise and every disappointment, is nothing but the faithful reflection, sometimes distorted and other times as precise as a calm mirror of water, of the deep convictions you have held within yourself, often in silence, often without even knowing they existed. For the human mind is like an underground reservoir where every belief, every repeated thought, every word you accepted as truth is stored, and from there it silently exerts its influence on everything you live. External life has no autonomy of its own. It obeys, like the shadow to the body and like the tide to the moon, the invisible dictates of your mind. And if you manage to understand and accept this truth, not only with your intellect but with every fiber of your being, then you will begin, for the first time, to be the master of your destiny and the architect of your circumstances. The mind, this marvelous instrument you cannot see but which determines every experience you touch, is a workshop where human destinies are forged. In the same way that the farmer, before the visible harvest, works the soil, chooses the seed and buries it in the furrow, trusting in laws he does not control but understands. So too every sustained thought and every mental image you embrace with emotion becomes an invisible yet exact seed that will inevitably bear fruit in its time. Nothing escapes this process. There are no shortcuts, no exceptions, for the rich, the poor, the wise, or the ignorant. For all, without distinction, live surrounded by the manifestations of what they have first sown in their inner world, consciously or unconsciously. Do not deceive yourself into thinking that fortune smiles only upon the chosen few, or that misfortune is the work of chance, for both are effects, never causes. And the first cause, the inexhaustible source of all human experience, is the content of the mind, the dominant vibration of your most intimate beliefs. To illustrate this principle, allow me to open a door to knowledge that, though simple, has been reserved and hidden from most. Imagine for a moment that you approach a mighty river. The water that flows in its course does not arise from whim or chance. It is the result of countless underground currents, of past rains, of hidden springs in the mountains that silently converge and pour into the visible stream. So it is in your life. What you see in the present, what you call your reality, is nothing but the surfacing of forces that have been operating beneath the surface of your consciousness, gathering momentum over days, months, and years. The visible is only the effect, the invisible the cause. Is this not precisely what the wisdom of the ages has taught in its parables and scriptures? As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. It is not an empty proverb. It is an infallible formula. Everything you are today, every circumstance that surrounds you, every person near you, is a reflection, no more, no less, of the images and concepts you have harbored in the depths of your mind. Do not make the mistake of supposing that your superficial thinking, what you consciously repeat every morning, is enough to alter the course of your existence. If it were so, we would all be magicians of fortune by simply wishing it for a day. But the mind operates in layers, like the strata of the earth, and it is in the depth of your subconscious that the laws governing your life are dictated. If a person repeats, "I am prosperous, I am happy," yet in the depths of their being harbors resentment, fear, or a sense of lack, it will not be their words that prevail but their inner belief. For the subconscious does not listen to the voice. It listens to the emotion. It listens to the image sustained with intensity. This is why reciting phrases is not enough. It is essential to sow convictions, to install new beliefs, until the inner soil is fertile for the desired result. Here lies the reason why so many fail in their quest for transformation. They try to change the branch without touching the root. They seek different results while stubbornly repeating the same fearful thoughts, the same self-limiting conversations, the same automatic reactions toward the world. How can the tree bear new fruit if the soil remains poisoned? You cannot reap wheat where you have sown thorns. It is law, not whim. The real work always begins in the mind, and this work is not a one-time act, nor a flash of passing enthusiasm, but a sustained discipline, a daily care of the inner soil, like the gardener who pulls the weeds and protects the seed until he sees it sprout. Do you not see how the farmer, even in drought, continues to trust in the law of sowing? Such must be your attitude toward adverse circumstances, an unshakable faith in the power of your thought. For the entire universe responds, without delay or error, to the vibration you emit from within. The human mind, when it recognizes itself as the cause of all experience, ceases to blame the external world and assumes its inalienable power. It no longer looks outside for solutions to problems created within. It no longer begs for favors from a blind destiny, but becomes architect, designer, and craftsman of its own future. Does it not surprise you to discover that every time you change your thought regarding a person, a situation, or even yourself, that reality also begins to move, adapt, and show you signs of transformation? This is not superstition nor magic. It is mental law, operating with scientific precision, as real as the law of gravity. Thought is an invisible force, yes, but a force nonetheless, that shapes matter and configures experience. There is no external event that has not first had a conscious or subconscious mental antecedent. And all true transformation begins with an inner decision. From today, I choose to think, feel, and act from the conviction that my world aligns with the image I sustain in my mind. Now I will reveal to you a secret that, though obvious to one who understands it, is revolutionary to one who still lives enslaved by appearances. The subconscious mind, that reservoir of memories, beliefs, and emotions where everything you have accepted as truth is stored, does not distinguish between what is real and what is vividly imagined. When you repeat a mental image charged with emotion, whether of success, of failure, of love, or of fear, your subconscious accepts it as an order and from that moment sets in motion all inner and outer mechanisms so that this image becomes reality. Thus the law works. First you imagine, then you believe, and finally you experience. Everyone who triumphs does so because, consciously or not, they have sustained long enough the image of triumph until the mind, obedient to the law, organizes the circumstances, people and resources so that this result manifests in experience. Allow me to bring this truth closer with an everyday example that untangles many of the most stubborn mental knots. You know someone who seems to attract opportunities, friendships, even good fortune with little effort, while others, perhaps more capable or better prepared, struggle and fail again and again. Where is the difference? Not in luck, not in innate gifts, but in the dominant mental pattern. The first expects, imagines, feels, and acts as if life owed them good results. The second fears, doubts, suspects, and unknowingly programs their subconscious to fail before even attempting. And here is where science and spirituality meet. Modern physics no longer denies that the observer affects the observed. Mental energy, when focused and repeated, influences physical reality and determines which possibilities become actualized in the field of the invisible. This is why the ancient teacher declared, "Whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." It is not a metaphysical promise, it is a practical manual for daily life. Resistance to this principle often arises from the education you received and the environment in which you grew up. If for years you have heard phrases such as, "Life is hard," "Money is scarce," "Love is only for a few," those seeds have taken root in your subconscious, and from there shape a reality where struggle, scarcity, or disappointment are the norm. Wishing the opposite is not enough. It is necessary to uproot those old roots and plant new convictions, new images, new inner decrees that, sustained long enough, will eventually replace the old programming. And this process, though it requires discipline and repetition, is within the reach of every human being. For the subconscious is moldable like clay, as long as you work it with faith, persistence, and emotion. The mind does not resist change when that change is sustained from conviction and not from doubt. Therefore, if you wish to transform your life, do not begin outside. Do not obsess over changing people, conditions, or events around you. Begin within. Take today the decision to become the sentinel of your mind, choosing, filtering, and repeating only those ideas, images, and words that are aligned with the result you desire. I do not ask for an act of blind faith. I ask for an honest experiment. Dedicate the next few days to installing in your subconscious the precise image of what you wish to experience. Sow conviction, not vague desire, and observe how little by little your external world begins to yield to that new programming. Remember that faith is not uncertain hope. It is the certainty of what is not yet seen. The deep conviction that what you imagine and believe with emotion is already on its way to you. Thus, the essential question is not, "What can I do to change my life?" but "What am I thinking, feeling, and believing in the depths of my being that sustains the life I now have?" If the fruit displeases you, check the seed. If the reflection disturbs you, adjust the image. Just as the doctor does not settle for alleviating the symptom, but seeks the root of the ailment, so too must you go beyond visible effects and work upon the invisible causes that govern your destiny. This is the great task of every seeker of fulfillment, to assume the power of the mind as source, not as victim, and to commit each day to consciously directing the current of their thoughts toward the chosen result. Your mind is the beginning and the end of all experience. It is not the environment that dictates your limits, but your inner disposition to accept, imagine, and sustain new possibilities. You are not a leaf carried by the winds of circumstance. You are the helmsman of your destiny, the sower and reaper of your reality. Begin today, here now, by treating every thought as a seed, every emotion as the water that nourishes it, every word as the light that strengthens it. Take responsibility for your inner garden and watch with patient wonder as the outer world begins to reflect the beauty and abundance you first created in your mind. Close this chapter knowing that everything you need is already within you. The external world, with all its apparent difficulties, is neither enemy nor obstacle, but mirror and training ground. Life returns to you with mathematical precision what you consciously or unconsciously hold as truth. Your task then is simple and powerful. Choose your thoughts, sow your convictions, guard your inner images, and trust, for the law never fails. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Make this affirmation your daily formula, your constant prayer, your unshakable foundation. The external world is only the projection of your inner world. Make your mind the origin of every new reality, and all else shall be added unto you. Chapter 2. Act as if, the art of planting certainty. Every deep transformation begins with an invisible movement that, although it cannot be seen with the eyes of the body, leaves unmistakable marks upon matter, upon results, and above all, upon the inner structure of your destiny. The most ignored secret by most men and women who seek to change their lives is this: nothing changes on the outside until something with strength and determination has changed on the inside. To act as if everything were working in your favor, even though no signs appear on the horizon, constitutes the highest act of faith and the most powerful seed you can plant in your subconscious mind. Here, in this simple yet revolutionary art, lies the difference between those who live on the crumbs of chance and those who become, day by day, deliberate architects of their reality. Allow me to begin with a question that, though it may seem simple, contains the germ of a renewed life. What would happen if, even in the midst of uncertainty, you acted, thought, and spoke as if the outcome were already guaranteed in your favor? This question is not a game, nor a piece of empty optimism. It is a mental command directed to the deepest part of your being. For your subconscious, that silent workshop where the future is manufactured, does not respond to complaints or doubt. It responds to certainty. It responds to clear instruction. It responds to the repeated emotion you communicate with your actions and your words. This is so. There is no other option. This is how the power of active faith works. It is about acting before seeing, moving before having proof, deciding before the evidence is in sight. For it is precisely that movement that gives the order to create a new reality. The most common mistake is to suppose that faith is a passive feeling, a vague hope, or a resigned waiting. Nothing could be further from the truth. True faith is action, movement, assuming the role and playing it with conviction, even when the stage has not yet been set in your favor. Imagine the actor in the theater. He does not wait for the applause before performing his role. He immerses himself in the character, breathes its words, walks with its energy, and in that act of assumption, the reality of the character takes shape in the minds of the spectators. So it is in life. When you act as if everything were already working out well, even though you see no result at all, you are sending to your subconscious the most powerful of commands. This is the state you must create. This is what I expect to see reflected outside. And your mind, obedient and bound to the law, sets in motion the hidden mechanisms that eventually transform the invisible into the visible, the promise into experience, faith into concrete evidence. Do not fear appearing naive before the eyes of those who, trapped in the old paradigm of seeing to believe, wait for proof before they move. The mental law never operates in that way. He who waits for proof before acting never reaps anything new, for his energy is that of doubt and postponement. Only the one who acts as if victory were already written succeeds in awakening inner and outer forces that had been asleep, waiting for the command of a dominant thought. And here lies the art of planting certainty. It is more than repeating phrases. It is more than imagining scenarios. It is behaving, feeling, deciding, and moving each day as one who gives no space to the alternative of failure. Your active faith then becomes the secret lever that changes the trajectory of your destiny. Remember that the subconscious is incapable of distinguishing between reality and what is vividly imagined. When you act with conviction, when you speak with the firmness of one who knows something is already theirs, your mind records that frequency and accepts it as an irrevocable command. Thus, the one who behaves as if he were already living in abundance begins to make abundant decisions. The one who moves as if he had already found love radiates the energy of love and becomes a magnet for new relationships. It is not about pretending superficially. It is about sowing deeply, reprogramming the subconscious with coherent actions that replace its habitual expectations. In this process, what was only a possibility becomes a probability, and from there, by the power of repetition, it transforms into certainty. Let me share with you a simple yet revealing parable from daily life. Imagine the farmer who, at the beginning of the sowing, sees no fruit, no stalks, no sign of harvest on the horizon. Yet he does not doubt to plough the field, bury the seed, and care for the land, for he understands that the law of nature is infallible. What is sown is reaped, even if the waiting time is uncertain and the rain delays. In the same way, when you act as if the harvest were already on its way, even though your field looks empty, your energy is that of one who trusts the law. And that trust mobilizes all the resources of the universe in your favor. Why do men fail at the very edge of success? Because they abandon the sowing too soon, because they demand premature evidence, because they confuse waiting with resignation, and forget that all active faith requires sustained movement. So how can you apply this art in your practical life? The key is coherence. Think as if you had already received. Speak as if the result were inevitable. Walk with the posture of one who has already conquered. Decide as one who cannot fail. If you desire prosperity, reject the language of lack, and act from the mindset of one who always finds resources. If you seek health, sow habits and words aligned with the image of a vigorous life, even when your body insists on showing you the opposite. If you yearn for love, first express it within and behave as one who already possesses it in abundance. The mental law responds to the dominant image, not to contradiction. And if you are constant in the act of planting certainty, life itself will break down walls and open paths where you once saw only obstacles. Yes, doubts and resistance may arise as you read this. That is natural. Your old programming, fed by years of contrary evidence and the learned fears of others, will try to protect you from the risk of expecting too much. But what greater risk is there? To act as if everything were working in your favor and allow life to surprise you, or to keep waiting for guarantees and resign yourself to reap always the same. Active faith is a leap, yes, but it is the leap that transforms, for the universe never rewards indecision, but the bold conviction of one who moves before having the complete map. Remember the teaching of the Master, "To him who has, it shall be given, and from him who has not, even what he has shall be taken away." Far from being a threat, this is a precise warning about the law that governs manifestation. Only those who act from certainty receive the world's response, because the universe aligns itself with the vibration of one who decides to act without hesitation. On this path, you will discover that active faith does not eliminate difficulties, it transcends them. It is not a shield against challenges, it is the key that allows you to walk upon them with an invincible posture. He who acts as if already unstoppable transforms obstacles into steps, delays into opportunities, and rejections into confirmations that the process is still unfolding. Just as the navigator trusts the compass even when the sky is cloudy, so must you trust in the power of acting before seeing. For certainty is the seed, and evidence is the fruit. No one harvests before sowing, no one receives before giving, and you will not be the exception. Therefore, sow faith with your actions, your words, your daily habits, and prepare the soil so that reality, sooner or later, manifests what you have chosen to believe. And here lies another secret that few dare reveal. To act as if is not arrogance. It is humility before the law. It is to recognize that not everything depends on your visible effort, but on the inner alignment of your thought, your emotion, and your behavior. When these three are in harmony, the subconscious receives a clear signal of what it must create. Then, circumstances reorganize, opportunities emerge, the right people appear, and the result, once distant, draws near in ways you cannot rationally explain. The art of planting certainty is not measured by immediate results, but by the quality and persistence of the active faith you sow in the silence of each day. Do not expect applause or external recognition. The true miracle happens first within and only later, inevitably, manifests without. Make your life a laboratory of active faith. Do not fear mistakes. Do not fear being seen as a dreamer before the skeptics. What matters is that your subconscious receives again and again the unequivocal command to act as if success, health, abundance, and peace were already yours. And if doubt ever appears, remind yourself that the mental law does not reward the one who waits, but the one who sows. Not the one who watches, but the one who acts. Does the farmer stop sowing because there was drought the year before? Does the sailor abandon the helm because the wind changed direction? No, they persevere because they know the law. And you, who now understand this principle, can do the same. Every action of yours, no matter how small it may seem, is a seed of certainty that programs your mind and attracts the harvest to come. Before closing this chapter, I want you to repeat within yourself a truth that will change your way of living. Reality responds to the behavior of the one who has already decided, not to the lament of the one who doubts. Today, right here, choose to act as if everything were conspiring in your favor. Plant certainty in your mind and in your actions, because the outer world has no choice. It is bound by law to reflect the dominant image of your inner world. Make active faith your constant habit, and you will see how, without seeking it, life begins to adapt itself to your new vibration. Thus, the eternal promise is fulfilled. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Do not wait any longer. Do it now. Act as if, and you will see that reality will have no choice but to bow before you. Chapter 3. The Law of As If. Your word is law. All human existence is built upon the invisible foundation of the deep convictions that govern thought, emotion, and behavior. At this foundation lies one of the most powerful, yet least understood laws of the mind, the law of as if. This silent but inexorable law governs the life of every man and woman from cradle to final breath. It declares with the force of an irrevocable decree that what you affirm about yourself with insistence and emotion inevitably becomes the only possible reality in your daily experience. The universe, far from being an arbitrary judge or indifferent witness, responds precisely to the dominant frequency of your word. For your subconscious, every decree is an undeniable command that must be carried out at all costs, without distinction between good or evil, possible or impossible, desire or fear. Let me guide you through this mystery, which is not an esoteric riddle, but a practical, reproducible law accessible to anyone willing to understand and apply the art of conscious autosuggestion. Autosuggestion is not empty repetition nor a naive trick. It is the mechanism by which your mind is reconfigured, establishing new mental pathways through the force of word, emotion, and repetition. If you have ever seen how a river, with unyielding patience, carves channels into the hardest rock, you can imagine how your thoughts and words, when repeated with conviction, open invisible roots in the very structure of your subconscious. What today may seem difficult, distant, or foreign becomes, through autosuggestion, a familiar path, a traveled road, and finally, an inevitability. Here lies the absolute power of your word. Your subconscious mind, which operates beyond logic and criticism, does not reason or evaluate. It only receives and executes. If you repeat day after day, "I fail at everything. Money is hard to come by. I never fully heal," the mind engraves these decrees as the only valid law. It then takes charge, with the meticulousness of an invisible engineer, of shaping experiences, encounters, decisions, and emotional states that confirm that mandate. But if instead you assume the law of as if, and each day you act, speak, and decree as if prosperity were your natural state, as if health were your inheritance, as if success already belonged to you, then the subconscious, which does not distinguish between current reality and the vivid image sustained with emotion, reorganizes all inner processes to align your life with that dominant image. Do not fear exaggeration here, for the law is stricter than you think. Just as the seed of a tree contains within itself the form and destiny of its future harvest, so does your word contain the germ of the destiny you will experience. Autosuggestion is the daily sowing of ideas, emotions, and decrees, and the harvest, sooner or later, manifests in your surroundings, in your relationships, in your bank account, and in the condition of your body. Why do I insist so much on repetition? Because the subconscious is trained through reiteration. Every insistent thought, every phrase repeated with conviction, deepens the mental groove until it becomes the natural channel through which all your energy flows. This is how habits, good or bad, are established and perpetuated. Now imagine a scenario in your life where everything seems to resist your will. Notice the mind's habitual tendency to decree in resignation or despair. This never changes. Nothing improves. I can't. Each time you affirm such things, even in a whisper, your word becomes the law that governs that area of your life. But if you choose, with discipline and understanding, to change the decree, even in the midst of doubt, and affirm with authority, now everything flows in my favor. My life moves forward with ease. I can overcome any challenge. You are planting a new seed that by force of law will sprout if you sustain it long enough. No matter how opposed your environment may seem, what is decisive is the inner image and the dominant decree. Outer reality has no choice but to conform to the inner law you uphold. Examples of the law of as if abound in daily life. The student who, convinced of his clumsiness, repeats daily, "I always fail exams," ends up reliving the confirmation of his word again and again. The salesperson who declares with fear, "No one buys from me, people don't trust me," sees the prediction of his subconscious fulfilled at every meeting. But observe how the dynamic is reversed when, through deliberate autosuggestion, these same individuals begin to decree, "I learn quickly and pass my exams. I inspire trust, and people want to do business with me." The changes may seem gradual at first, but the law does not fail. Whatever the mind engraves through repetition, the body, the voice, the attitude, and circumstances end up reflecting with absolute fidelity. And here lies the central secret of this chapter. It is not enough to occasionally counterbalance with positive words. It is essential to establish firm, repeated decrees charged with emotion so that the subconscious accepts them as a new law to obey. Do not be discouraged if at first it feels artificial or forced. Just as the farmer must plow the land before seeing the first sprout, you must persist again and again until the planted word takes root and springs forth spontaneously in your mind and behavior. Success is not the fruit of chance, but of the constant sowing of decrees aligned with the image you wish to see reflected in your life. This truth, though simple, demands discipline. I invite you to undertake a personal experiment for 21 days. Choose a powerful affirmation related to the area of life you wish to transform, and repeat it every morning and evening with the conviction of one who is already living the expected result. For example, "My mind is the source of unlimited prosperity. Everything I do prospers, and I feel guided toward the best opportunities." In the first days, your rational mind may resist and inner voices may arise that contradict the decree. Pay them no attention. Persevere. Autosuggestion requires time to dissolve the old mental pathways and create new routes toward success. But if you persist, if you repeat with emotion, and if you act as if it were already true, your word will become law and your destiny will change course. Let me reveal a key forgotten by most. The power of autosuggestion multiplies when combined with the language of emotion. It is not enough to repeat words. You must feel them. The subconscious responds to the emotional state that accompanies the decree. That is why each time you affirm your new truth, associate it with an image, a memory, a sensation of achievement or gratitude. Make your body and entire mind participate in the repetition. Then the seed finds fertile ground and germinates quickly. In the end, your whole life will be the sum of the decrees you have sustained, consciously or unconsciously. If until today your words have built paths of fear, doubt, or lack, do not lament or condemn yourself. It is enough to begin now a deliberate process of conscious autosuggestion, assuming the power of the law of as if. Speak, act, and think, as one who has already received the blessing he desires. And your subconscious, faithful servant, never traitor, will turn your word into the new law governing your reality. According to your faith, it will be done unto you. This is not a religious dogma, but a psychological instruction of universal value. Always remember this principle. Your word is law to your mind, and your mind is the silent architect of everything you will call destiny. The law of, as if admits no exceptions, recognizes no external circumstances, and does not negotiate with doubt. What you uphold as inner truth inevitably becomes outer truth. If you wish to change your life, begin by changing the decree. If you long for a different reality, establish it first in word, then in emotion, and finally in action. Step by step, the law fulfills itself, and your inner world becomes the irresistible cause of your outer world. Life is the exact reflection of your decrees. Take charge of your word. Assume the law of as if and watch how obedient, precise reality bends to the authority of your conviction. Each day, each phrase, each mental image is a seed. Sow wisely, water with emotion, protect with persistence, and the harvest will be inevitable. Autosuggestion applied with rigor and faith does not only modify the mind, it transforms the entire existence. Do it now. Decree today the reality you wish to live tomorrow, and the universe, which responds only to words sustained with certainty, will make your life the visible expression of your invisible command. Chapter 4. Behavior and Result. What you do precedes what you receive. All of life is organized around a law as inexorable as gravity, as relentless as the succession of days and nights. Action precedes result. There is no phenomenon in nature or in the human mind that contradicts this principle. Man, often misled by the illusion of passivity or by the mirage of desire unaccompanied by movement, forgets that the universe, in its most intimate structure, does not respond to what you secretly think or long for, but to what you decisively, visibly, and consciously do. Here is revealed the great distance between those who dream and those who achieve, between those who wait and those who reap. Action, when bold and sustained, becomes the supreme language of conviction, the unmistakable sign that your faith is not an abstract idea, but a force in motion, capable of altering the very order of circumstances. To understand the power of this principle, you must look at life as it is, without embellishment or euphemism. Thought is the seed, yes, but it is the act that sows it in the fertile field of reality. The mind, however powerful, remains sterile if it does not lead to conduct. Desire, no matter how ardently declared, dissolves like mist under the sun unless followed by a concrete step toward the expected result. All of nature shouts this truth unceasingly. The river does not reach the sea by imagining the journey, but by advancing drop by drop, overcoming obstacles, carving stone, opening a path even through drought. Likewise, each time your action defies inertia and declares by deeds, "This is what I want," the universe reorganizes itself and prepares to offer paths where before there were only doubts. Let me show you the essential difference between theoretical conviction and practical conviction. It is common to hear people assure that they are ready for change, willing to receive abundance, health, or love, but who do not alter a single habit. They do not modify their words, they do not adjust their environment, they do not take the first step, however small. They wait for signs, guarantees, perfect conditions, and in that waiting their faith withers and their energy disperses. They forget that bold action is not the consequence of confidence, but its cause. Acting even when the voice trembles, even when there is no evidence, even when the environment is hostile. This is the most powerful declaration you can make before your subconscious and before the universe. I am ready to receive. Whoever understands this truth becomes the master of his destiny. Action is the master key that opens invisible doors and topples walls that once seemed insurmountable. It is no exaggeration to affirm that every conquest, in any area of life, can be traced back to an inner decision followed by an action executed with determination. It is impossible to attract prosperity while your daily actions contradict your inner discourse. You cannot expect health if your habits deny that desire. You cannot reap love if your gestures and words are filled with criticism, indifference, or resentment. The universe does not respond to what you think you believe, but to what you confirm with your behavior, your choices, and your way of responding to adversity. The subconscious mind is an obedient force, but also an inflexible one. It interprets every action as a priority command, superior even to occasional thought. If day after day you conduct yourself as someone defeated, insecure, or without purpose, the mind engraves that pattern and ensures the production of emotions, ideas, and events that corroborate it. But if you decide to act as if success were inevitable, even when your environment does not yet reflect it, your subconscious begins to reorganize, to generate new neural associations, to summon internal and external resources to sustain that new script. There is no other way. Coherent action is the chisel that sculpts the invisible statue of destiny. Many wonder why life seems to resist their attempts at change. Despite affirmations, visualizations, and desires, results do not come. The answer is as clear as it is forceful. Daily behavior remains anchored to the old identity. It is not enough to decree prosperity in the morning. If at midday your financial decisions are fearful or impulsive, it is useless to affirm self-love if your actions, your posture, and your words deny and sabotage you at every moment. What you do precedes what you receive. It is an operational, non-negotiable principle. Your energy is transmitted and manifested through actions, and those actions, repeated and charged with intention, become the platform upon which your new reality rests. In the field of mental science and practical spirituality, this principle has been observed and taught for centuries. Faith without works is dead, declares the ancient biblical text, reminding us that movement, step, and physical action are the seal that validates every inner affirmation. It is not possible to reprogram the subconscious with isolated thoughts or fleeting emotions alone. Daily action is the indispensable reinforcement that engraves, consolidates, and multiplies inner change. How does this translate into daily life? Through the discipline of acting in line with your vision, even when the body, the rational mind, or the environment insist otherwise. Let me illustrate with a simple yet revealing example. A man, after years of financial limitation, decides to break the cycle of scarcity. He learns the principle of acting as if abundance were his natural state. From the first day, he begins to manage his money with gratitude, to pay his bills on time, to speak of prosperity, to avoid complaints, and to surround himself with symbols of success. His income does not increase immediately, but his energy changes, his self-esteem improves, his creativity awakens, and little by little unexpected opportunities begin to appear. The environment responds because action has sent an unmistakable signal. This person is ready to receive more. Faith, now accompanied by congruent works, is answered by the universe with synchronicity, resources, and aligned encounters. Bold action is not synonymous with recklessness. It does not mean throwing yourself blindly or accumulating frantic, meaningless movements. It is acting with purpose, with clarity, and with an unshakable commitment to the inner vision. Boldness does not mean ignoring fear but advancing despite it. It is declaring with your body and your decisions that the result is assured because you have already decided to walk toward the goal. At this point, the subconscious mind takes note and begins to restructure itself. Doubts diminish, creativity multiplies, allies appear, and what once seemed distant becomes attainable. It is worth remembering an aspect that many neglect. Persistence in action is as vital as the first step. It is not enough to begin inspired or to make an occasional heroic gesture. Mind and reality demand constancy, repetition, adaptation. The behavior that is sustained, even when there are no visible signs of progress, is what finally inaugurates irreversible transformation. Sustained faith in action is the most powerful magnet of the mental universe. Nothing resists the combination of a clear vision and a congruent, bold conduct. In summary, what you do precedes, shapes, and determines what you receive. Every prayer, every visualization, every declaration must be sealed with daily action that confirms your faith. If you want to transform your health, begin to act as one who is already healthy. Eat better, move more, rest with gratitude. Speak of well-being. If you want prosperity, manage every resource as one who already has in abundance. Make intelligent choices, share, invest in yourself. If you want love, act from love, not from need or fear. Make your life a sequence of gestures aligned with the vision you wish to manifest. In this way, the law is fulfilled, because the entire universe recognizes and responds to the indisputable language of bold and congruent action. Manifestation always begins with an act. Let your life be a faithful reflection of your inner conviction, not by what you think in secret, but by what you do each day. Behavior precedes result. This principle is as ancient as life itself and as current as the science of success. Sow coherent action, and the harvest will be inevitable. The universe never errs with those who speak the language of action. Chapter 5. The Power of Mental Movement. Deprogram your limits. All human existence is defined, for better or worse, by the limits the mind accepts as real. There is no wall, prison, ceiling, border, or sentence more powerful than the silent programming we inherit from our environment, our family, and our culture. It is there, in the invisible workshop of the mind, that the hardest chains are forged and the greatest possibilities are born. Every recurring thought, every phrase repeated in childhood, every assumption absorbed without question becomes a directive that unknowingly determines your capacity to advance or to stagnate, to grow or to diminish, to transform your life or resign yourself to what is given. It is here, in the realm of mental movement, that the supreme secret of inner freedom and true greatness resides. From their earliest days, human beings live immersed in an ocean of borrowed beliefs. They learn to call normal what they see at home, to interpret the world through the lenses of parents, teachers, and immediate surroundings. This is possible. This is dangerous. This is for others. Life is hard. You must settle. It's too late to begin. I don't have what it takes. All of those phrases, burned into memory, become silent commands that program the subconscious mind and induce it to reproduce the same results over and over again. Man convinces himself that his limits are universal laws, when in truth they are internal agreements, unseen contracts signed without awareness. Yet this is precisely where mental movement bursts in as a force capable of breaking any cycle of limitation. What is mental movement? It is the ability to deliberately challenge inherited limits and replace them with a consciously chosen identity of success. In essence, it is the decision never again to accept as inevitable what has only been repeated endlessly. It is not about denying reality, but about transforming the interpretation the mind makes of it, thus opening doors that fear and habit had long kept shut. Every lasting change begins with a revolution in thought. To understand this process deeply, it is crucial to examine the origin of the beliefs that govern your current life. Ask yourself without hesitation, where do my ideas about money, health, love, success come from? Which of them are truly mine, and which have I accepted without examining them? What phrases do I repeat daily without ever questioning them? How many I don't deserve. I'll never make it circulate in my inner dialogue. And worse, how many of those limits have become self-fulfilling prophecies? The mind is fertile ground, but for centuries it has been seeded with both power and limitation. The great challenge is to deprogram the inherited weeds and intentionally plant the thoughts that will lead you to the life you desire. Of course, this is not an instant or superficial process. The subconscious mind is deeply conservative. It guards old beliefs like a dog guards its territory. Every attempt at change awakens resistance, doubt, discomfort, even fear. But that discomfort is not a sign of danger. It is the evidence of transformation. It shows that the old self is being questioned and that a new level of life is about to be born. This is the essential role of mental movement, to challenge inner boundaries again and again until they collapse under the weight of a new truth. In practice, deprogramming inherited limits requires a combination of self-awareness and directed action. It is not enough to identify limiting beliefs. They must be systematically bombarded with opposite thoughts, images, and behaviors, until the subconscious has no choice but to adapt to the new information. For example, if all your life you've been told that money is hard to earn and dangerous to keep, begin today to speak and act as someone for whom abundance is natural and secure. Manage your money with gratitude. Bless what you have. Celebrate the prosperity of others. Speak affirmations of wealth. And above all, surround yourself with symbols and people that reflect the success you seek. At first you will feel discomfort, even rejection. But if you persist, the mind will begin to accept the new programming, and soon the results will manifest around you. Let me share the testimony of a woman who, after years of failed relationships, dared to challenge the deeply rooted belief that love was suffering and scarcity. Every night before bed, she visualized a harmonious relationship, repeated affirmations of worthiness, and, most importantly, acted as if she were already accompanied. She cared for herself, spoke to herself with love, and refused unworthy situations. In less than a year, her reality changed at the root. It was not magic or chance, it was mental movement, intentional reprogramming, the radical denial of the inherited limit, and the deliberate creation of a successful identity in love. This is how the law works. The mind, when directed with discipline, reorganizes experience and summons circumstances that confirm the new identity assumed. The key lies in understanding that identity is not a fixed destiny, but a continuous construction. You can decide who to be at any given moment, and that sustained decision, accompanied by action, eventually displaces even the oldest programs. Mental movement is essentially daily training. Every time you choose a thought of power, every time you reject a limiting label, every time you refuse to give in to inherited fear, you are strengthening the muscles of a new personality. There is no greater secret. Your life changes in the measure that you change the image you hold of yourself. Have you ever wondered why in entire families the same stories of failure repeat generation after generation? It is not destiny, it is programming. The mind inherits not only eye color or height, but also beliefs, emotions, habits, and fears. But the opposite is also true. It only takes one member to challenge the family narrative, to question the "it has always been this way," and to decide to live from a new conviction, for the entire lineage to change course. This is what makes the human being great, the ability to choose who to be, to break the cycle, to create the future. Of course, this process requires discipline, honesty, and courage. It is not enough to repeat positive phrases while daily behavior remains governed by the old script. Every thought of power must be backed by acts of power. If you decide to deprogram scarcity, act generously, share, invest in yourself, take bold steps toward new opportunities. If you choose to break free from fear, raise your voice, take risks, face the unknown with the certainty that you are greater than any obstacle. Yes, day after day, mental movement becomes external movement, and limits that once seemed immovable begin to dissolve under the pressure of an expanding identity. Human history is filled with men and women who defied the limits imposed by their time, their family, their society. None of them succeeded from resignation or complaint, but from the conscious decision to move mentally toward a new vision of themselves and the world. What was impossible for the majority became inevitable destiny for them, because they dared to think, feel, and act in harmony with success, even when everything around them insisted otherwise. That is the invitation offered to you today. Stop negotiating with your limits. Challenge every inherited belief that robs you of power. Replace it with a greater idea and accompany that idea with daily actions aligned with your new identity. In conclusion, mental movement is the force that separates the creator from the repeater, the protagonist from the spectator, the triumphant from the resigned. Your mind, when firmly directed, deprograms limits and builds paths where once there were walls. The identity of success is not a mysterious gift. It is a decision renewed each day, a sum of thoughts and acts that, repeated with faith and perseverance, eventually reconfigure your entire life. Always remember, no limit is absolute, except the one you refuse to challenge. True freedom consists in moving your mind beyond inherited boundaries, and finally becoming the conscious architect of your destiny. Chapter 6. Expectation prophesies your destiny. Within the human mind operates a law as silent as it is absolute, a law that turns habitual thought into prophecy and premonition into inevitable experience. This law, intuited by sages of every age and only recently described by modern science, makes no distinction between dreams and fears, between hope and suspicion. It responds with perfect accuracy to the dominant expectation you hold within, and it manifests it outwardly in your reality without error or exception. Here lies a crucial and often forgotten distinction. To desire is not to expect. To ask is not to receive. To long for is not the same as to prophesy from the innermost conviction. The secret of those who radically transform their destiny is not that they harbor more intense desires, but that they have learned to replace every lingering doubt with the calm, active expectation that life will respond to their faith. Many men and women spend years repeating affirmations, visualizing their goals, praying for change, convinced that intense desire alone is enough to produce a miracle. But the subconscious mind, unlike the surface mind, does not respond to the intensity of desire. It responds to the quality of expectation. You may say, "I want success," but if deep within you expect obstacles, betrayals, or failures similar to those of your past, your life will not obey your words, but rather the unspoken prophecy of your expectation. This is law, and like every law, it admits no exception. Expectation is the invisible contract you sign with your reality. It is the script the subconscious accepts, and which the universe reproduces by affinity in circumstances, encounters, numbers, and outcomes. Consider then, how many of your desires have been contradicted by an invisible expectation of loss, rejection, or disappointment? Observe carefully what you think in the silence of night about your future. What do you believe will happen even while your lips repeat words of hope? There is no trick here, no possible self-deception. Life, like a flawless mirror, reflects not what you want, but what your deepest self expects. This truth may feel uncomfortable, but only by accepting it can you begin to rewrite the prophecy of your destiny. The difference between desire and expectation is subtle, yet decisive. Desire by itself is passive. It is a spark that can ignite action, but can also be extinguished by the winds of doubt or habit. Expectation, on the other hand, is a continuous current, a sustained vibration that shapes perception, determines decisions, and draws toward you people and events resonating with its frequency. A man who desires prosperity but expects difficulty will always find new justifications for his lack. A woman who longs for love but expects disappointment will unconsciously choose relationships that confirm her fear. The result is never random. It is the faithful product of an inner prophecy repeated until it becomes external law. Yet it is not enough to wish to change expectations superficially. The subconscious mind detects self-deception, rejects hollow formulas, and only accepts as law that which is infused with sincere emotion and constant repetition. Thus, rewriting your personal prophecy demands an act of radical honesty. You must look directly at your current expectations, and if you find them negative or limiting, deliberately choose to replace them with a greater, more luminous vision. This process is not instant, but it is inevitable if practiced with perseverance and sincerity. How is this accomplished? Through the art of autosuggestion, emotional reprogramming, and coherent action. Autosuggestion is not repeating empty phrases. It is the deliberate installation, through word and mental image, of a new expectation that your subconscious will accept as true. For example, instead of saying, "I hope this goes well," declare inwardly, "It is natural for everything to align in my favor." This is not lying to yourself, but training your mind until that expectation becomes more familiar than the old prophecy of failure. Emotion in this process is indispensable. Each time you imagine your success, do so while feeling the joy, peace, and gratitude you would experience if it were already real. The subconscious is moved by images and sensations, not logical arguments. Emotional reprogramming requires mindful attention to the inner states accompanying your self-talk. If during the day you detect thoughts of doubt, anxiety, or defeat, do not repress them nor deny them. See them for what they are, remnants of old expectations, and gently replace them with certainty that good is on its way. Repeated consistently, this practice weakens negative prophecy and strengthens the expectation of success. Slowly but surely, the new programming supplants the old, and life begins to show signs of obedience to your new prophecy. Coherent action is the final proof of a transformed expectation. Human beings always act, consciously or unconsciously, in line with what they expect from the world. If your expectation is success, you will dare to make bold decisions. You will seek opportunities where others see risk. You will persist where once you would have given up. And the universe in turn responds to such boldness with synchronicities, coincidences, and unexpected results. Here the eternal law is fulfilled. To each shall be given according to their faith. But faith here means active expectation, sustained conviction, a chosen prophecy repeated until it becomes your second nature. Let me illustrate this principle with the real case of a young entrepreneur who for years longed to achieve financial prosperity, but whose secret expectation was that he would always remain on the brink of bankruptcy. Just as he had witnessed in his family during childhood. It didn't matter how many courses he took, how much he worked, or what new strategies he tried. He always repeated the cycle of advance and setback. Everything changed when, upon discovering this pattern, he deliberately decided to install an expectation of stability and abundance. He began celebrating every small income as evidence of a constant flow, visualized his business thriving, and spoke of himself as a man of resources and natural success. It did not happen overnight, but within less than 2 years, his financial reality had radically transformed. His personal prophecy had been rewritten, and life faithfully adjusted to the new script. Remember then that every expectation is an invisible seed that will bear fruit sooner or later in the field of your experience. Sow doubt, and you will reap doubt. Sow certainty, and you will reap results. Do not resign yourself to the prophecy others have planted in you. Decide today to expect good, expect opportunity, expect answers, expect abundance. Not out of naivete, but because you understand that the mind cannot receive what it is not prepared to expect. Desire is the first step. Expectation is the key that opens destiny. Before closing this chapter, take a deep and honest pause. Examine your life and ask, what am I truly expecting from life, from work, from love, from my health? What prophecy am I repeating, perhaps unconsciously, through my words, my thoughts, my daily choices? Do not fear the answer. If it is a negative prophecy, thank it for showing you the limit. And if you decide to change it, begin today planting the new expectation with the conviction that the law will respond. For just as the earth never rejects a seed, the universe never ignores an expectation sustained with faith. Here lies the power to prophesy your destiny. By turning expectation into your habitual state, you rewrite your life from its very root. Do not ask the world to surprise you. Be the one to surprise the world, by expecting the best and allowing your life to become the reflection of the faith you chose to plant. Chapter 7. Total Commitment. Closing the door to doubt. Experience proves again and again that the greatest enemy of lasting progress is not error nor lack of talent, but the inner doubt that devours from within every powerful initiative. Doubt is a slow-acting poison. It undermines the will, dilutes energy, transforms opportunities into obstacles, and turns hope into resignation. Many men and women with noble ideals and brilliant plans never managed to crystallize their purpose because deep down, they never committed themselves fully to their goal. They fluctuated between desire and hesitation, between faith and suspicion, always leaving open the door to a possible retreat, just in case, if things did not turn out as expected. This subtle indecision is the true factor that separates achievers from those who remain trapped in cycles of sterile repetition. Total commitment is not a superficial declaration, nor a passing emotion. It is an inner pact, an irrevocable decision that closes every alternative exit and burns the symbolic ships that might tempt you to retreat. The act of burning the ships, originating from the stories of ancient generals who, upon arriving in enemy territory, ordered the destruction of all means of retreat to force their men to fight until the end, contains a fundamental lesson for anyone wishing to radically transform their life. If you leave escape routes open to the old identity, energy disperses, the mind vacillates, and the subconscious interprets that it is still not time to give everything. But when you make an inner pact, when you proclaim that retreat is no longer an option, and that moving forward is the only alternative, a current of unknown energy is activated within you, and your whole being reorganizes around that purpose. For commitment to be genuine, it must be born from a deep understanding of what it means to assume full responsibility for your destiny. Many believe they are committed because they feel enthusiasm or repeat motivational phrases. But true commitment is proven by deeds. What are you willing to leave behind? What price will you pay in discipline, focus, and consistency? Which part of your old identity are you willing to renounce in order to become who you truly desire to be? It is not enough to want different results. It is necessary to proclaim with firmness that from this day forward, no excuse will suffice, no fear will have the power to dictate your decisions, and no obstacle will be greater than your determination to advance. The subconscious mind, which governs 95% of your daily actions, requires unequivocal signals. As long as your actions and thoughts transmit doubt, fear, or indecision, it will continue to defend the old state, the old habits, the familiar routes. But when it perceives that your decision is absolute, when it observes that you close doors and declare with words and actions that return is impossible, then a phenomenon comes into play that we might call total alignment. Your energy, your attention, your resources, and even your latent creativity are released toward the new goal, radically transforming your capacity to manifest results. Total commitment is the great accelerator of the process of inner and outer change. Let me illustrate this principle with a true story, the story of a woman who for years dreamed of starting her own business, but always kept a job for security, convinced it was prudent to have a fallback plan. She tried to walk two opposing paths, one dictated by faith in her dreams, the other guided by fear of failure. It wasn't until, after a decisive experience, she finally resigned from her job and gave herself wholly to her enterprise, that the energy shifted. The results were not immediate, but the inner movement was irreversible. There was no going back. Her mind was now completely devoted to finding solutions, innovating and connecting with the people and resources she needed. Before long, success manifested in ways that once seemed impossible. Total commitment had replaced dispersion with focus, hesitation with boldness, and anxiety with a powerful peace born of determination. This is the effect of closing the door to doubt. Vital energy, once scattered across multiple possibilities, concentrates in a single direction, turning you into a channel of inexhaustible creative force. Life, perceiving that you have renounced excuses and no longer beg for results, responds by granting opportunities, alliances, ideas, and resources that had been hidden behind the veil of indecision. Here, the ancient maxim is fulfilled quite literally. The universe yields before the one who is decided. This is not a metaphor. It is a law of correspondence, a natural reaction of the mind and of the environment to an unshakable decision. Yet total commitment also requires a symbolic act, an inner pact you can consciously perform to seal your determination. Write, declare, visualize, and repeat each day your personal promise. There is no option of failure because I have decided never to retreat. Reinforce this pact with concrete actions. Eliminate habits, relationships, or environments that feed doubt. Establish daily rituals that nourish your new identity and strengthen the sense of progress. The mind needs tangible proof that your decision is real, and each small act of congruence is a signal that affirms commitment within the creative deposit of your subconscious. The true act of closing the door to doubt also implies reprogramming the interpretation of challenges. The committed one does not interpret obstacles as signs of defeat, but as inevitable tests of the process of transformation. Each time you face a difficulty and choose not to retreat, you strengthen the invisible muscle of perseverance. Each time you feel fear and act despite it, you confirm to your mind that the new identity is stronger than the old resistances. The result is renewed vital energy, a confidence no longer dependent on external circumstances, but on the certainty that no force is greater than your inner determination. Remember, commitment is not a one-time event, but a state renewed each day. In practice, this means reminding yourself daily, from the very first instant upon waking, that there are no alternatives to your advancement, that the goal has already been chosen, the identity already assumed, and doubt no longer has permission to negotiate your destiny. There will be moments of fatigue, discomfort, or temptation to turn back. In those moments, reactivate your inner pact, visualize the burned ships and reaffirm, I have closed the door to doubt. There is no turning back, only forward. Here lies the formula of total commitment, an irrevocable decision, reinforced by daily action, nourished by constant vigilance over your inner dialogue, and sealed by the definitive renunciation of old escapes. When you apply this law, the energy of your life transforms, your vibration rises, and reality begins to respond to you with astonishing precision. Not because life has changed its rules, but because you have changed your willingness to receive the best. Close this chapter by asking yourself a single question, but do so with absolute sincerity. Have I left the door to doubt open, or have I already sealed my inner pact? Remember that life responds not to what you wish, but to what you accept as inevitable. Make total commitment your new law. Plant this certainty in your subconscious today. There is no longer a way back, only victory. When your decision is that firm, life itself takes charge of opening the way before you. Chapter 8, Creative Imagination. Visualize the outcome, live the experience. No single factor in the dynamics of the human mind has as much power to transform experience as directed and conscious imagination. Imagination, far from being a mere faculty for escape or fantasy, is the practical tool the mind uses to construct the invisible models that reality will later materialize. Since the dawn of civilizations, those who have understood this principle have exercised extraordinary mastery over their circumstances, becoming architects of their own destiny. Creative imagination is not a luxury reserved for artists, nor a gift limited to a select few. It is the primary faculty of human beings to form, shape, and sustain internal images that, by the law of mental reflection, eventually manifest externally. You must first understand that the subconscious mind responds with exact literalness to the images you hold in your imagination, provided these images are accompanied by vivid, repeated feeling. The mistake of many lies in believing that visualization is a mere intellectual exercise, a series of detached thoughts without emotional charge. Nothing could be further from the truth. An image without emotion is devoid of creative energy. It is like a seed cast on barren soil. It cannot germinate. By contrast, when a mental image is clothed in intense feeling, desire, anticipated gratitude, absolute certainty, the subconscious recognizes it as an order and silently activates the internal and external mechanisms necessary for its materialization. You should explore this process not as a superstitious ritual or esoteric practice detached from reason, but as the most logical and natural exercise of a human conscious of their inner power. The procedure is simple, though it requires discipline. Choose a quiet place, free from distractions, where you can spend a few minutes closing your eyes and directing your attention toward the desired scene. Do not limit yourself to observing the image from the outside as a passive spectator. Enter the scene, live it from within, involve all your senses. If your goal is financial prosperity, do not be content with seeing money accumulated. Imagine the sound of bills as you count them, the texture of the paper in your hands, the satisfaction of watching your bank balance grow, the serenity of making financial decisions without fear. If you seek health, visualize yourself walking with renewed energy, breathing deeply, feeling every organ functioning perfectly. The key is to experience internally the desired state with the maximum sensory realism possible. Here is a foolproof exercise. Before sleeping, when the mind is most receptive and the barrier between conscious and subconscious becomes permeable, repeat the visualization process. Imagine the goal already achieved in as much detail as possible. Feel deep within the gratitude of having attained it. Do not ask how it will arrive. That is the domain of universal mind, not the individual. Your task is to plant the image and water it daily with the corresponding emotion. The law never fails. All that you ask in prayer, believe that you will receive it, and it will come to you. Prayer, in mental terms, is emotionally charged visualization. Believe that you already have it, and your mind, through often unsuspected channels, will begin to organize circumstances for its fulfillment. Do not ignore the role of feeling. In every visualization, true power lies in the emotion you associate with the image. If you view it with skepticism, if you doubt your worthiness or the possibility of achievement, you transmit a confused signal to your subconscious, paralyzing the process. Conversely, when you associate the image with a sensation of accomplishment, anticipated joy, and unconditional gratitude, your entire nervous system responds, adjusting physiology and attitude to become the type of person who is already living that reality. Emotion is the fertilizer for the mental seed. Without emotion, the image is sterile. With emotion, it becomes irresistible. Many ask, what if I cannot feel the right emotion? Here is the secret. Feeling can be cultivated through repetition and positive association. At first, visualization may feel forced. Old skepticism may creep in. Do not resist it. Persist. With each repetition, the image becomes more real, the emotion more natural, the belief firmer. Modern neuroscience confirms what metaphysics has proclaimed for centuries. The brain does not distinguish between lived experience and intensely imagined experience. If you repeat the internal experience with sufficient realism and consistency, your biology and external behavior adapt, and reality responds accordingly. Do not underestimate the details in your visualization. Everything you can see, hear, smell, touch, or taste in your imagination contributes to the solidity of the mental image and therefore to its power to manifest. If you wish success in a job interview, visualize the handshake, the interviewer's smile, the confidence in your voice, the tone of triumph in your words, the confirmation call celebrating your acceptance. If you aspire to harmonious relationships, imagine fluid conversations, an atmosphere of trust, the sensation of mutual respect and appreciation. The more specific your visualization, the easier it is for your mind to identify and create corresponding opportunities in the external world. To make creative imagination work continuously, it is essential to align your daily thoughts and words with the chosen mental image. It is useless to visualize abundance and spend the day complaining about scarcity. You cannot imagine success and then declare that the world is hostile or that things never turn out as you want. Every word you speak either strengthens or weakens the image planted in your subconscious. Consistency is the hallmark of a truly creative mind. Visualize the outcome, live the internal experience, and maintain a dialogue throughout the day that reinforces this new reality. Here is a secret that can mark a before and after in your life. When you imagine the outcome with such vividness and persistence that your mind accepts it as real, a phenomenon of inversion occurs. Anxiety disappears, obsessive desire dissolves, and in its place arises a dynamic peace, a serene certainty that announces the imminence of the outcome. This state of inner knowing, so different from anxious hope, is the true magnet for manifestations. The external world, like a faithful shadow, eventually adjusts to the image held with conviction and feeling. Do not hesitate to dedicate daily time to this exercise. Consider each visualization session as an act of sacred sowing, a direct investment in your destiny. Remember that every external manifestation is always preceded by an internal manifestation, and no one can harvest what they have not first sown in the imagination. The human mind is the matrix of all creation. Each image is a seed, each feeling a fertilizer, each word an order. When you consciously choose which image to sustain and nurture it with the proper emotion, the law is inevitable. The world will be compelled to reflect that which you have already lived first within. In conclusion, creative imagination is the faculty by which you, the reader, cease to be a passive spectator of circumstances and become the deliberate architect of your experience. No matter how distant your goal may seem, or how many failures you have accumulated, if you decide today to visualize with intention, live the experience internally, and nurture that image with persistent feeling, you have begun the process of transformation that inevitably leads to external manifestation. The law never fails. Felt imagination is the origin of all future reality. Therefore, act each day as one who already lives the outcome. Your subconscious and the universe itself will respond with mathematical fidelity to the image and emotion you choose to sustain today. Chapter 9. Self-image. Become the protagonist of success. In the secret workshop of the human mind, there exists a central figure whose influence surpasses any other psychic force: the self-image. The image you hold of yourself, often constructed over years through external voices, past failures, others' expectations, and hasty conclusions, becomes the silent compass that determines the course of every aspect of your existence. Everything you experience in the external world is nothing more than a faithful reflection, an inevitable projection of what, deep within your consciousness, you believe yourself to be. Here lies the principle that separates those who reach great heights from those who seem doomed to repeat the same mistakes. No one can live beyond the image they hold of themselves. Self-image is not a philosophical abstraction, nor a mere psychological ideal. It is the mental matrix from which your habits, decisions, automatic reactions, and above all, your silent expectations emanate. The subconscious accepts this image and, by an unbreakable law of correspondence, aligns your actions, emotions, and results with that identity. If your self-image is weak, confused, laden with doubt, or marked by a history of failures, you will inevitably attract experiences that confirm it. No matter how hard you work, how much effort you put in, or how many books you read until your internal identity transforms, your external reality will remain motionless, repeating the same old patterns. Those who understand this principle gain an unexpected power and responsibility. Reprogramming your identity is not a superficial task or a simple change of attitude. It is a deliberate process of inner reconstruction in which you consciously choose the kind of person you wish to be and act, think, and feel from that new position, even before you have external evidence to support it. Like an actor portraying a role, you do not wait for the audience's approval to dress and behave as the character. You must dress yourself with the result before seeing it manifest on the stage of your life. It is not about pretending, but about inhabiting internally the version of yourself that has already achieved the goal. The process begins with honest self-observation. What image do you repeatedly hold of yourself? Do you see yourself as prosperous or limited, worthy of love or condemned to rejection, capable or insufficient? Your internal dialogue reveals unmistakable clues. Every phrase beginning with "I always," "I never," "that's just who I am," is another brick in the construction of your self-image. If you recognize patterns of defeat, insecurity, or resignation in your inner discourse, it is urgent to challenge and replace them. You cannot expect a different harvest if you keep planting the same seeds. Reprogramming your identity begins with creative visualization and autosuggestion. Imagine, with as much clarity and constancy as possible, the version of yourself you wish to embody. Do not limit yourself to seeing results. Observe your posture, hear your voice, feel your confidence as you walk. Notice the serenity with which you respond to challenges, the poise with which you make important decisions, the joy with which you relate to others. Do not wait for the world to grant you permission to see yourself as successful. Grant yourself that permission. The subconscious mind, repeatedly exposed to this internal image, ultimately accepts it as real and begins to modify your physiology, attitude, and behavior to align with it. The daily practice of dressing with the result consists of adopting, in your everyday routine, the habits, manners, and attitudes of someone who is already successful, free, or loved. If your goal is professional success, act each day as the professional already respected, valued, and sought after for their expertise. If your aspiration is financial abundance, make decisions and manage your economy with the responsibility, vision, and gratitude of someone who already handles great resources. If you seek fulfilling relationships, start by relating to yourself with the dignity, appreciation, and self-esteem you wish to receive from others. Each time you choose, despite doubts, to act according to the new identity, you are cementing that self-image at the core of your subconscious. Here lies a powerful secret. Identity precedes results, never the other way around. Most people wait to succeed to feel successful, to be loved to feel worthy, to accumulate wealth to feel abundant. But the law is the opposite. First, you must become that inner version, live the result internally, and then external events will begin to align almost automatically. The subconscious mind, which governs over 90% of your daily behavior, can only operate according to the model you provide. If today you decide with determination and discipline to rewrite that image, you will be inaugurating a new cycle of opportunities and experiences. Many ask how to maintain the new identity when the environment has not yet reflected the change. The answer is mental perseverance and emotional discipline. You cannot allow yourself to doubt every time facts appear to contradict your new self-image. On the contrary, you must reinforce it in those critical moments, remembering that every external result is only the echo of an internal vibration previously planted. Just as the farmer does not dig up the seed each day to see if it has germinated, you must trust that the internal image, nurtured by repetition and feeling, will ultimately prevail over the old programming. Do not underestimate the power of small acts. Every choice, gesture, word, and reaction can become an argument in favor of the new identity or a justification for maintaining the old. If you aspire to be seen as a leader, begin by leading your thoughts and emotions. If you wish to be recognized as generous, act generously in small ways. If you seek security, affirm and express confidence in your body language and inner dialogue. Even when you do not yet feel full conviction, systematic repetition of these acts, supported by willpower and clarity of purpose, rewires neural circuits and establishes the new self-image as the only possible reality. In the mental and spiritual tradition, this truth has been expressed through various metaphors. As within, so without. Man reaps according to the measure of his faith. Each receives in accordance with the image he holds in his heart. These are not philosophical statements. They are practical laws. When you see yourself, in detail and persistently, as the protagonist of success, the world cannot do otherwise than respond to that identity with opportunities, relationships, and results that confirm your internal choice. The art of dressing with the result also requires a commitment to constant vigilance. The mind will tend, by inertia, to return to familiar images, inherited beliefs, and habits that feel comfortable, even if limiting. Your task is to interrupt that inertia whenever you detect it, reaffirming with clarity your new identity. I am not the person who fails. I am the one who learns, grows, and conquers. I am not the one who fears the future. I am the one who builds it with vision and determination. Thus, day by day, you transform your original self-image into an inexhaustible source of power and direction. There is no external transformation without internal transformation. Every lasting change in life begins with the irrevocable decision to modify the image you hold of yourself. Today, you can decide, without waiting for further proof, that your self-image will be that of a winner, a conscious creator, the protagonist of success. When that decision becomes your internal norm, life as an exact reflection will begin to obey you, showing opportunities, resources, and relationships aligned with your new identity. The law never fails. Become today the protagonist of your destiny and watch with serene amazement as the external world bends to the strength of your renewed self-image. Chapter 10. The vibration of success projects your new reality. Mental science has demonstrated as precisely as any physical law that every person radiates to the world a unique vibration, composed of the sum of their dominant thoughts, persistent emotions, and daily actions. This invisible yet undeniably real vibration silently emanates into the universe and unfailingly determines the kind of circumstances, opportunities, and people you attract into your experience. Life does not respond to your casual desires, but to the vibration you maintain as your baseline state, and that vibration is the inevitable result of your internal coherence. Therefore, understanding the art of aligning thought, emotion, and action becomes the key to projecting a new reality and manifesting success in all its forms. Everything begins in the mental domain, where ideas germinate and select the thoughts that feed the fundamental vibration of your existence. The mind, like a powerful transmitter, amplifies every thought you repeat with intensity, especially when accompanied by a defined emotion. A thought of success, sustained with confidence, gratitude, and enthusiasm, is not a mere passing idea. It is a precise command that your subconscious accepts and transforms into attitude, body language, tone of voice, and ultimately behavior. Every time you repeat an idea accompanied by emotion, you strengthen the signal of your personal vibration. Here lies a principle as simple as it is powerful. Coherence between what you think, what you feel, and what you do generates a magnetic energy that alters the flow of events around you. It is not about suppressing negative emotions or masking doubts with empty phrases, but about training your mind to select thoughts that evoke emotions congruent with success, abundance, and inner peace. When there is internal harmony, when your thoughts of prosperity evoke certainty and translate into actions aligned with that expectation, your vibration becomes unmistakable. The universe, through a law of resonance, responds by attracting realities that match that exact frequency. It is not enough to think positively occasionally, nor to act with enthusiasm from time to time, if deep down you feel fear or resentment. The vibration of success is built through the conscious integration of all your inner forces. If you desire extraordinary results, you must make internal coherence a habit, a unity of purpose in which no part of you contradicts another. The mind that projects images of achievement while holding emotions of doubt ends up sabotaging its own progress, and sending contradictory signals to the outside world. That is why it is essential to observe yourself, detect any misalignment, and correct it immediately. Thoughts of greatness must be supported by the feeling of possibility and by the courageous actions that express that belief. Many fail to realize that vibration is not mystical, it is a biochemical and behavioral reality. When you think about success with conviction, your brain releases neurotransmitters associated with confidence and motivation. Your muscles relax, your posture changes, your voice gains firmness, your gaze brightens, and your entire body communicates that invisible message to those around you. People respond first to your vibration, even before hearing your words. Personal magnetism is not a gift reserved for a few. It is the natural effect of a mind, heart, and will operating in the same direction. That is why it is rightly said that success is a consequence of being, not just doing. The daily practice of this coherence begins with the deliberate selection of your most recurring thoughts. Ask yourself honestly, what ideas occupy most of my day? Are they thoughts of victory or defeat, abundance or lack, peace or conflict? From this observation, consciously choose mental images that inspire you, phrases that affirm your purpose, and statements that consolidate your vision of success. For each chosen thought, accompany it with the appropriate emotion. It is not enough to say, "I am doing well," if internally you feel fear. You must evoke, with discipline, the corresponding feeling, even if at first it seems forced or artificial. Over time, the subconscious mind will accept that feeling as authentic and incorporate it into your vibrational identity. Action, in turn, closes the cycle of coherence. Every powerful thought and intense emotion finds its fullest expression in decisive acts, in the conduct that confirms your faith in the result. There is no stronger vibration than that of someone who acts according to their vision, even when visible facts seem to contradict it. Bold behavior, sustained by internal conviction, is the universal language of magnetism. Every time you make a decision aligned with your goal, you send a signal to the universe saying, "I am ready to receive the success I have visualized." It is not the size of the action that matters, but its congruence with the internal energy from which it is executed. The great difference between those who live full lives and those who repeat cycles of dissatisfaction lies in the dominant vibration they emit. The person who has cultivated coherence between thought, emotion, and action does not depend on external approval, favorable circumstances, or the opinions of others to feel on the right path. They know from personal experience that their vibration is the invisible cause of visible results. They do not chase success, they attract it. They do not beg for opportunities, they generate them with their mere presence. People sense their energy before hearing their arguments, and the world responds with open doors and unexpected synchronicities. However, the vibration of success cannot be sustained by mental effort alone. It also requires conscious monitoring of your automatic reactions and emotional states. Daily life is full of tests that seek to destabilize your internal coherence: criticism, delays, unexpected obstacles, disappointments. Each of these situations represents an opportunity to reaffirm your vibration or to return to the old frequency of fear or scarcity. Here is where true mental mastery is measured: the ability to return again and again to chosen thoughts, feelings of certainty, and coherent action, regardless of appearances. To strengthen this vibration, use the resource of affirmative inner dialogue. Speak to yourself with respect, clarity, and authority. Do not allow the language of doubt or complacency. If your mind wavers, reaffirm, "My vibration attracts success. I am a magnet for opportunities. Everything in my life aligns in my favor." Repeat these phrases not as superstition, but as a method of autosuggestion that reconfigures your internal state and keeps your energy within the range of achievement and expansion. The more consistent your self-talk, the stronger the signal you emit, and the faster it manifests in your results. In both spiritual and scientific traditions, this principle has been recognized under various names: the law of attraction, morphogenetic resonance, the quantum field, or simply personal coherence. The name does not matter, the practice does. Every time your thought, emotion, and action operate in perfect harmony, you become the origin point of a new reality. People perceive it and respond. The universe detects it and delivers. Ultimately, success is a sustained vibration, a signal that cannot be ignored. Today, if you wish to experience a quantum leap in your life, commit to practicing this coherence systematically. Select thoughts of success and sustain emotions of certainty. Act each day with the conviction of someone who has already triumphed. Observe how your body language changes, how your mood improves, how unexpected paths open. It is not magic or chance. It is the natural effect of an elevated vibration that allows no interference. If you remain steadfast in this practice, you will reach a point where you no longer need to struggle to attract results. You will become the natural magnet for everything your mind has clearly conceived, your heart has deeply felt, and your hands have acted upon with purpose. The vibration of success is not improvised nor delegated. It is built, strengthened, and projected day by day until the world has no choice but to reflect the unwavering coherence of your being. In this way, external reality gradually becomes the faithful reflection of your internal energy, and success ceases to be a distant goal, transforming instead into the natural state of one who has learned to project their new reality without hesitation. Chapter 11. Persistence and Resilience, the Invisible Force of Achievement. The story of every true accomplishment is not written with the fleeting ink of initial enthusiasm, but with the quiet constancy of persistence. Throughout history, humanity's greatest achievements have been the work of those who, facing the harshest circumstances, refused to yield to difficulty and persevered with their gaze fixed on the outcome. Even when visible reality seemed to challenge every effort, the secret that distinguishes winners does not lie so much in extraordinary talent or privileged opportunities, but in the invisible force of resilience, the ability to stand firm in the decision to move forward, to correct and adjust the course without ever retreating. Persistence, in this sense, is the cornerstone of all mental and material conquest. Understanding this principle requires careful observation of the functioning of the subconscious mind, because it is there that the pathways of achievement or of abandonment are etched. The mind, like fertile soil, receives every thought, word, and act of determination as a seed. The law is simple but unbreakable. A seed watered consistently, even under the threat of drought, will eventually germinate. Likewise, a goal sustained with perseverance, despite setbacks, delays, or momentary disappointments, takes root in the deep repository of the subconscious and eventually bears fruit in visible reality. The external world inevitably responds to the vibration of one who insists with unwavering faith, because repetition in thought and action is the way the mind reprograms itself for success. Allow me to illustrate this principle with a true case from clinical practice, shared with me by a man who, after losing his job and seeing all doors close, decided, though with doubts, to apply the law of persistence in his life. Every day before going out to seek new opportunities, he quietly repeated, "Life is on my side. Every door opens in my path. My success is inevitable." Weeks passed without visible results, and his friends advised him to abandon his optimism and resign himself to the situation. Yet he continued planting the image of success in his mind, acting and thinking as if the outcome were already guaranteed. After a month, he received an unexpected offer from a company to which he had never sent a resume, but which, on the recommendation of an acquaintance, sought him out specifically for the qualities he had mentally affirmed. This is how the law operates. The external world cannot resist indefinitely the constant vibration of a convinced mind. Persistence must not be confused with mere mechanical effort or aimless stubbornness. It is not about knocking repeatedly on a closed door, hoping it will open by chance. It is about keeping the vision alive, adapting strategies, learning from mistakes, adjusting the course whenever necessary, but never abandoning the essential goal. The river, when it encounters a rock in its path, does not stop to lament or seek blame. It flows around the obstacle, moves wherever it can, and over time can erode the hardest stone. So too is the mind that cultivates persistence, flexible in methods, unyielding in purpose. Resilience, in turn, is the art of transforming every blow in life into a stepping stone for growth. No one is exempt from partial failures, moments of discouragement, nights of doubt, or days when everything seems against them. But here lies the fundamental difference. The resilient person interprets each difficulty as an invitation to refine character, strengthen determination, and learn the lessons that fate reserves only for those who do not retreat. "Blessed is the man who perseveres under trial, for he shall receive the crown of life," says Scripture. Modern psychology confirms this by showing that a mind subjected to challenge develops new neural connections, strengthens creativity, and increases adaptability whenever the person persists in their vision. Modern society worships immediacy and too often undervalues the power of productive waiting, gradual process, and progressive refinement that only constancy can provide. In that error lies the root of many premature failures, the man or woman seduced by the promise of instant results, abandoning right at the threshold of true change. Those who understand the law of persistence know that every attempt, every repetition, every act of faith amid doubt is nurturing an invisible reality that will inevitably manifest as the visible fruit of success. The universe responds not to fleeting desire, but to the determined insistence of one who does not give up. Consider for a moment this principle that has transformed countless lives. Persistence is not merely doing more, it is doing what is necessary for long enough until the world yields. Scientific evidence supports this truth. Numerous experiments in neuroplasticity have shown that repetition of behaviors, thoughts, and emotions strengthens specific neural connections, creating mental highways that facilitate the emergence of new behaviors and results. By insisting on your vision despite the absence of visible proof, you are literally reconfiguring your brain to perceive, create, and seize opportunities that previously seemed invisible. That is why I insist, do not be deceived by the illusion of initial failure. Nothing manifests without resistance. Every level of change requires traversing zones of discomfort, moments of apparent emptiness, and tests of faith. But as long as you sustain positive thought, a sense of accomplishment and congruent action, reality, though delayed, must adjust to your new frequency. Like a farmer who sows in spring and trusts the harvest, even if the field looks barren, you too must trust the invisible gestation process that every manifestation requires. What you do not see today is already on its way if you maintain the correct vibration. Many ask, how long must I persist? The answer is simple and unwavering, until the result appears. Persistence does not negotiate with time because time does not limit the creative mind. Each day that you sustain your vision, reaffirm your faith, and act congruently with your goal is one day closer to the objective, even if the external senses suggest otherwise. Real failure is not making mistakes, stumbling, or delaying. Failure exists only when you decide to retreat and abandon your purpose. Herein lies the true value of resilience, the ability to transform pain into momentum, error into learning, rejection into renewed motivation. The subconscious mind receives each experience, positive or negative, as raw material for creation. If you insist on seeing the hidden blessing in every challenge, persist in the right mental attitude, and rise each time you fall, you will develop the inner strength that distinguishes builders of destiny from mere observers of chance. Allow me to close this chapter with a powerful formula to ingrain in your consciousness. Firm decision plus unbreakable persistence. X-aligned action equals sign inevitable manifestation. This is how the law works, without exception. If today you decide with total seriousness to persist in your purpose until you see the fruit, if you refuse to retreat even when the path seems long or difficult, the entire universe must yield to the vibration of your constancy. Nothing is stronger than a determined mind that does not negotiate with defeat, that refuses to abandon the battlefield before claiming its victory. Always remember, the invisible force of achievement is the sum of your persevering thoughts, resilient emotions, and repeated acts of faith. When the world sees in you a will that cannot be broken, an energy that does not retreat before any obstacle, only then will it surrender to your presence and place at your feet the results you seek. It has always been this way, and it will continue to be so, because persistence and resilience are the true architects of destiny. Chapter 12, The Creative Language. Speak your destiny into existence. When a person understands deep within that every word spoken, every thought repeated, and every internal or external declaration is a seed planted in the fertile soil of the subconscious mind, they realize that language is far more than a mere mechanism of communication. It is the fundamental instrument through which one creates or destroys the experience of life. Nothing in life exists without being preceded by inner dialogue, by the formation and repetition of a conviction in the silent recesses of the soul. The word, far from being a simple articulated sound, is vibration, condensed energy, the spark that ignites the invisible machinery of the mental law. The principle is clear, though often overlooked in daily living. What you constantly repeat, what you affirm with feeling and persistence becomes the mold through which your destiny flows, just as a potter shapes clay until the invisible form is revealed. Similarly, the human being, through the deliberate use of words, molds the formless clay of their experience. The subconscious mind, unable to distinguish between joke and truth, between fear and desire, accepts any idea infused with repeated emotion as a command. Therefore, each person's life is ultimately the exact reflection of their mental and verbal decrees, whether conscious or not. Observe this principle at work in the small details of daily existence. Haven't you noticed how those who maintain speeches of failure, poverty, or illness seem to attract evidence that validates those words? The same thing always happens to me. I'm unlucky. It's hard to succeed. Phrases repeated uncritically become direct orders to the subconscious, which obediently and precisely organizes circumstances, people, and opportunities so that external experience confirms the internal decree. Life responds not to vague wishes, but to the clear, persistent affirmations you pronounce. Language is not only what you say to others, but above all the uninterrupted monologue you maintain with yourself from the moment you wake until you close your eyes at night. This internal dialogue, invisible to others but decisive for you, shapes the landscape of your immediate future. If you speak to yourself with words of power, if you mentally affirm that you are capable, valuable, deserving, and guided toward good, your mind aligns accordingly, and your behavior changes to reflect that inner image. Thus, internal dialogue constitutes the first sowing, the secret root of all visible manifestation. Contemporary science, particularly neuroscience, has shown that repeating positive affirmations alters neural pathways, strengthening mental circuits that predispose coherent action aligned with purpose. But this knowledge is not new. Ancient sages, prophets, and spiritual leaders already taught in various forms that man is a slave to his words and that, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Matthew 12:34. What is spoken with repeated conviction becomes engraved in the intimate structure of personality, turning into mental habit and, ultimately, experienced reality. Allow me to illustrate this principle with a real-life case. A woman who, for years, repeated limiting and scarcity-based phrases to herself. I never have enough. Everything is too expensive for me. Money is not for people like me. She repeatedly observed that any increase in her income was quickly absorbed by unexpected expenses. Upon understanding the power of creative language, she decided to radically change her internal and external speech. She replaced each thought of lack with declarations of abundance and gratitude, such as, "Wealth flows into my life in unexpected ways. Every day I receive new blessings. I am open to opportunities and receive them with joy." She persisted in this new dialogue, even when her senses indicated otherwise. Within weeks, not only had her mood and energy changed, but work offers, gifts, and relationships began to arise, expanding her prosperity. Thus, the word sown with faith and persistence sooner or later germinates in experience. You must understand that using creative language requires discipline and awareness. It is not enough to recite affirmations once a day and then immerse yourself in hours of self-criticism, complaint, or lament. Every thought and phrase must be carefully observed, and any negative content immediately replaced with a statement of power. This practice, initially uncomfortable due to the inertia of old habits, eventually becomes second nature, sustaining the new identity. It is essential to distinguish between superficial affirmation, spoken without feeling or belief, and a heartfelt declaration, charged with emotion and conviction. The subconscious does not respond to empty words, but to the emotional vibration accompanying them. Therefore, when you declare something, do so with body, mind, and feeling aligned, as one announcing an irrevocable truth. Repeat your decrees each morning and night, especially in moments of drowsiness, when the subconscious is most receptive to new programming. For example, every day I am stronger, wiser, and more prosperous. Everything conspires for my good. I am guided by inner wisdom and move forward with confidence. Additionally, guard the language you use when relating to others. Every complaint shared, unnecessary criticism, or discouraging phrase directed at another acts as a seed that first germinates in your own mental field before extending into the world. So words of encouragement, hope, and upliftment, not only as an act of kindness toward others, but as a commitment to yourself and to the destiny you choose to create. Remember, as the wise fox taught, what a man sends out returns multiplied. If you wish to radically transform your life, make creative language your main ally. Build a repertoire of affirmations aligned with your goals and repeat them, not mechanically, but with the certainty that each is altering the course of your destiny. Give thanks before receiving. Declare as true what you desire. Celebrate in the present what is not yet visible. Anticipatory gratitude and firm affirmation are tools that accelerate manifestation. In short, every human being is by decree the architect of their life. The word is the most powerful construction tool you have been given. Use it with wisdom, vigilance, and faith. If you ever doubt the power of your affirmations, remember the unalterable law. You will be justified or condemned by your words. Matthew 12:37. Do not let carelessness in speech rob you of the glorious destiny that belongs to you. Today you can begin to write a new story by first changing your internal dialogue and then your words to the world. Conclude this chapter with the decision never to speak a phrase that contradicts your good. Make creative language a habit and observe how, without exception, life begins to reflect first subtly and then visibly the affirmations you held with faith. In this way, the word sown with intention becomes destiny. Your mouth ceases to be a simple channel and becomes the rudder steering the course of your life. Chapter 13. The unbreakable decision, the point of no return. There are moments in life when a person is confronted with a silent fork in the road, invisible to the world but of immeasurable significance to their destiny. Some ignore it, postpone it, or disguise it with excuses. Others, however, embrace it and become masters of themselves. This moment is the unbreakable decision, the true point of no return, and it marks the threshold between reactive existence and a life guided by inner power. No genuine progress or lasting transformation occurs without a total resolution that closes all doors to the past and swings wide open the access to a new experience. Success, peace, prosperity, and deep purpose are revealed only to those who decide with a firmness that transcends doubt and surpasses the whims of changing emotions. It is essential to understand that deciding at the highest level is not merely choosing between superficial alternatives, but cutting away, once and for all, the internal ambiguity that has so often sabotaged personal growth. The unbreakable decision does not rely on fluctuating moods, external approval, or the appearance of perfect signs. It is a declaration of power directed at the subconscious mind, an irreversible command that establishes a new direction and allows no turning back. No man can serve two masters, says the Gospel of Matthew. Deep psychology confirms this truth. A divided mind cannot manifest stable results because indecision dissolves energy, disperses purpose, and extinguishes the creative fire. In clinical practice and the careful observation of great achievers, it is evident that the unbreakable decision marks the beginning of true change. Before this point, attempts to improve life are often timid, filled with hidden conditions and hesitations. The individual may declare a desire for prosperity, health, or love, yet secretly keeps an escape plan, a mental refuge to return to if things do not turn out as expected. The inevitable result is a lukewarm, incomplete manifestation, plagued with ups and downs and disappointments. Only when mind and heart, will and feeling align in a single direction does energy become unstoppable and reality begins to shape itself in accordance. Where lies the secret of this irrevocable decision? Not in the absence of fear, but in the presence of a higher conviction. To decide in its deepest sense means relinquishing all possibility of turning back, like a navigator who burns his ships upon reaching foreign land, forcing the mind to find resources, paths, and strengths that were previously latent. In that symbolic act of cutting off the return, the subconscious receives an unmistakable signal. This is the new reality. There is no turning back. The obedient universe then begins to unfold opportunities, allies, ideas, and synchronizations that were previously hidden. Modern psychology calls this phenomenon positive cognitive dissonance. By committing without reservation, the individual is compelled to adjust behavior, thoughts, and emotions towards the chosen objective. But this knowledge has been practiced since time immemorial by sages, spiritual leaders, and creators of all kinds. Decide and the universe will align accordingly. Teach mystics and men of action alike, for the law makes no distinction between believers and skeptics. It simply responds to the force of sustained decision. The reader must understand that this point of no return requires the conscious participation of both mind and body. A mental affirmation upon waking or a fleeting desire in the midst of daily distraction is not enough. The decision must be ritualized, endowed with solemnity and persistence, so it is engraved in the deepest layers of the subconscious. In ancient traditions, the act of deciding was accompanied by concrete symbols and gestures, writing a signed commitment, pronouncing a declaration aloud in front of a mirror, performing a physical act representing the definitive abandonment of the old identity, burning letters, donating possessions that anchor the past, radically changing daily routines. These rituals are not superstitions, but powerful shortcuts that communicate to the subconscious the seriousness and irrevocability of the decision made. Once the decision is sealed by a symbolic act, the work does not end. Conscious vigilance begins. Whenever doubt arises or the temptation to retreat appears, it is essential to remember the commitment and reaffirm it. The constant repetition of the phrase, "I have decided and I will not go back, everything conspires for my success," must become a silent mantra, a shield against returning to old patterns. The subconscious responds to repetition just as stone is polished under the persistent drip of water. The value of the unbreakable decision lies not only in the initial moment, but in the capacity to sustain it amid adversity. The path to achievement is not linear. It presents tests, obstacles, delays, and unforeseen challenges. The truly decisive person does not interpret these difficulties as signals to abandon, but as confirmations of their commitment. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to reaffirm the decision and to prove first to oneself and then to the world that the new direction is irreversible. This attitude forges character, strengthens willpower, and polishes active faith, which does not depend on immediate results, but on deep certainty in the mental law. Here, autosuggestion and visualization play a supporting role. Imagine each day that you have already crossed the threshold, that you live and experience the outcome of your decision, that everything within you, thought, emotion, and action, is already aligned with the new reality. Repeat internally, calmly, and with conviction, "I am sustained by my decision. Success follows me because I no longer allow doubt in my heart." In this way, the subconscious receives coherent and powerful instructions that reinforce the new direction, even when the old personality attempts to reclaim its place. In my practice, I have often seen people fail not due to lack of intelligence or resources, but because they never definitively sealed their decision. It is as if they shoot an arrow without fully drawing the bowstring. The shot is weak, uncertain, and the arrow falls before reaching the target. In contrast, one who decides firmly invokes invisible forces that sustain momentum, even when external conditions seem contrary. Never forget this truth. The universe responds to determination, not hesitation. I invite you to create your own ritual of the unbreakable decision. Choose a quiet, uninterrupted moment and write in detail the commitment you now choose to seal. Read it aloud with solemnity, feeling in your body the weight and power of your words. Make a mark, a physical sign, an object, an article of clothing, or a deliberate change in your environment that reminds you daily that there is no return. When doubt arises, touch that object, recall that moment, and repeat your decision. This teaches the mind that the doors to the past are closed. Remember, no greatness has ever been achieved by one who allowed indecision to escape in their mind. The point of no return is the birth of a new identity. It is the moment you stop being a spectator and become the protagonist. Do not fear deciding with the full force of your being, for this act alone has the power to summon allies, circumstances, and opportunities once unimaginable. If today you dare to seal your decision, not with timid words but with the totality of your will, you will discover that the world yields to a determined mind. It is now up to you to transform theory into action, hope into certainty, and desire into fulfilled destiny.